Dreams are usually just very symbolic. So you have to interpret the meanings. The symbols not necessarily have the same meanings for everyone. It depends on your comprehension.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here to speak with you alongside here with Eiji. Let's get into it. So, Eiji, I have been talking to people all day today, specifically about dreams. Now,
Okay.
I think it's one of the top questions that humans have is both what happens when we die, what's in our oceans, and also are dreams real or are they something
Mm-hmm.
we create in our head? Now, I'll tell you my opinion really quick. I believe dreams reveal things that you think about in a subconscious way. But I also believe that people who have passed, like a grandparent, a loved one, have the capability, I don't know how, but they can also do these things called dream visitations, which a lot of people on YouTube, you can find several podcasts. People get visited sometimes by loved ones, either the day that they have passed, within the week, or sometimes years later. So I think it's such a mystery. Uh, we do it every night. We dream every day. Sometimes we remember, sometimes we don't. So, what kind of ideas do you have you know, if you have thought about it before, about what dreams are?
Yeah. I think dreams are the real situation for our souls. And I think that waking reality is actually a virtual reality for us. So yeah, but for us, from our perspectives, dreams are very irrational, and the reality is pretty rational. But I think our souls or our mind actually reorganizing in our dreams. Yeah, like a data or thoughts or
Yeah.
emotions. Yeah, and then when we wake up in the morning, we feel like refreshed. That's how dreams work, I think.
Y- there's days where I have either some issues or some problems in my daily life, and during the daytime, I can never resolve them. I can't think of a solution, but either when I fall asleep and I wake up, or after some quiet time in the shower, I finally come up with an idea or a solution to my problems. Um, I had spoken with somebody earlier saying they believe when you're living in the conscious state right now,
Hmm.
all you think about are your problems, what you need to do, what bills you need to pay. There's no
Hmm.
time for solution. But when your mind shuts off, that's the moment you're most connected to, I guess, to yourself, to your soul, higher self. Um, and so there's no interruptions, there's no static. It's much more direct contact, right?
Yes.
But tell me a little bit about how or what you see in your dreams, or how you interpret your own dreams.
Yeah. Dreams are usually just very symbolic. It has meanings, but it's not in a direct way. So yeah, we have to interpret the meanings hidden inside the dreams or symbols. But it's very hard actually. So and then the symbols not necessarily have the same meanings for everyone. It depends on your comprehension.
Yeah.
So they send you images or symbols depend on your understandings of things. That's what I thought.
I think people can have a range of opinions about what dreams are. Some people will read really deeply into every bit of your dream.
Hmm.
Why your jacket is the color it is, or why you're in a location. So there's definitely levels, I think, to dreams.
Yeah, because dreams are actually pretty much the pure images from your subconscious. So your subconscious can't explain as your consciousness. So uh, it doesn't make sense in the first sight. But I think, for example, if you take a note, like a dream note, every morning, right after you wake up, you would find some patterns in there, your dreams. So you can interpret your, I don't know, direction or patterns of your thoughts or your condition right now. So you can utilize the dreams for your the reality or daily lives.
So these patterns are deep in our subconscious, right? But
Yeah,
they are visualized through, well, what we see every night.
yeah, and also uh, it's possible to be like messages from your higher self or your guide or maybe other entities. Yeah, like people from other planets. Yeah, but I think rare. It's for just selective people that can understand their messages properly.
So, Eiji, what you're saying is that in our sleep, we're receiving symbols, but in our own language, the way that we understand. So,
Yeah, exactly.
if I see a red bird, it's not going to mean the same thing as what you think a red bird means for you.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's quite interesting. I often hear, for example, channelers, mediums, psychics, they have their own language. Not a language in the way we physically see it here, but the way that they have a manual for how they interpret symbols from the other side, other dimensions. So, without getting too into the topic of mediumship, um, are you a strong believer of entities, spirits, souls being able to somehow present themselves to us in dreams?
That's a good question.
Right. I think about it all the
Yeah. Uh, I don't think they can interfere our dreams directly, but in our dreams or when we are dreaming, our consciousness would be in the different realm. So it's kind of a common realm for any entities. Yeah, like backside of the material world. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So I think other entities are existing in that realm. So and we can communicate with them in there. So in that way, we can or they can communicate with us in our dreams.
I think it's quite interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, there are often well documented cases of people who say, "Hey, my grandma, I just had this feeling and I dreamt of my grandma last night and she had passed." So, there's so many cases that it just has me wondering what is going on with our dreams? What are we tapping into and what are we connecting to? Is it a source of unlimited creative power, a source of I don't know, peace, symbolism? You can name whatever. I'm just throwing words out there, but dreams to me seem to be the most mysterious thing that we go through every night. There's also on the flip side, right? You might see your grandmother, but you might also see something dark or undefined, maybe
Hmm.
scary. Which is why I think it's important to always, before you go to bed, kind of protect your energy, similar to a meditation, right? Because you're not consciously in your body anymore and your mind's floating somewhere. But do you often or have you ever set any kind of protection for your energy before you sleep?
Not exactly, but I sometimes ask, like, dreams what I want to see. So I wanna see the dream of, I don't know, for certain people or certain events. Yeah, but it didn't work before. But yeah, yeah. But also, affirmation before sleeping is very powerful because you are getting into the subconscious state, and it's like a theta wave. So yeah, in that state, manifestation work the best. So I didn't ask about dreams, but I sometimes ask what I want, and then let me see what I want in my dreams. So
So,
yeah.
are you saying that the state before sleeping is the
Hmm.
most powerful in order for us to
Yeah,
receive?
yeah. Until you fall asleep, like right before you fall asleep. That's the best time to affirm something.
And just to kind of refresh everyone's memory about manifestation, we
Hmm.
manifest both the good and the bad. So if you go to bed angry, if you
Hmm.
go to bed with problems,
Hmm.
why do I have so much of this? You're probably going to
Yeah.
manifest more of it.
Yeah, that's also very, yeah, true. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't think about, bills you have to pay, or, mortgage or something like the heavy. So
The heavy stuff. Yeah, stuff we don't want to
yeah,
think about when we're asleep. Um,
yeah.
how interesting. I've had my fair share of strange dreams. Um, have you ever realized you're in a dream while you're asleep?
Yeah. Often. Yeah. It's lucid dreams, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lucid
And
dreams. Some
I
people manage
think,
to leave completely, they say.
yeah. And I always try to move freely in that lucid dream. But yeah, the more I try to move freely, and yeah, um, how can I say? The dreams let me wake up suddenly,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, and I learned, and I should pretend that as if I not aware of the lucid dream.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm kind of acting like I'm not dreaming, but you know, a part of
You're
my
going
brain
with
it just
the scene
does
of the
stay,
plot of the
yeah,
movie.
stay aware. I'm dreaming now, but don't I don't know who it was, but like dreams.
Yeah.
I shouldn't show them that I'm awake, so that they just let me go back to the waking reality.
You are the second person to say that. They're careful when they realize they're in a dream because I had
Yeah.
a student of mine say he asked somebody what time it was and everything just went kind of chaotic,
Hmm.
which I've never had the chance to ask what time it was in my dream, but I've built a habit to try to look at myself or find a mirror in my dreams. In the beginning, it was very hard to get myself to do this, but
Hmm.
now it's pretty like I do it religiously. Every time I go into a
Yeah.
I look in a mirror and I have interesting outfit, funny hair, I look different. So there's definitely different you can be very creative, I think.
Hmm. And I think it's about our egos. So when you realize that you are dreaming, you might have no egos, like very pure yourself. But after a while, you might have desire to control the dreams. That's your ego. So ego draw you back to the illusional world. I think that's a law of the universe. So it's same thing happened in the reality.
Right. And so I'll ask the question I'm sure somebody out there is thinking, how how accurate do you think the movie Inception was? Did you watch this movie before?
Yeah, I don't remember all the stories, but I still remember the concept of the movies. Yeah, and it was, I think, very, yeah, close to the truth.
Well, I also heard it was based on a Japanese animated movie first, is what I
Mm.
hear.
Oh, really?
Uh,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it was based on a movie called Paprika. I think it's called Paprika.
Oh, okay.
So take a look
So,
into it. I think they developed the concept first in Japan.
yeah, I strongly remember the one concept of in that movie. So, there are layers, and then they are just, yeah, keep going down, right?
Hmm.
So deeper and deeper and deeper. So that was the most, how can I say, a mind blowing concept for me.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I kind of knew it. Yeah, there are layers, and we see dreams in a different level. So sometimes very shallow, yeah, like a daily life or whatever dreams, but sometimes in the deep area, we might see the very meaningful dreams, or somebody or something trying to send you important message through your dreams.
So all in all, I would say to our listeners, if you're to take anything from this episode, definitely pay attention to the symbolism and the things you see in your dreams because they
Hmm.
could point to patterns you have, ideas you could discover, solutions you could discover. We dream every night. I definitely recommend keeping a dream journal. I definitely have one as well. And try to decode what you see because a lot of things might just be something simple and pointless, but oftentimes, like you said, Eiji, there is a lot of meaning behind the things that we see. So I'm hoping everyone pays attention to their dreams tonight. And thank you again, Eiji, for having this chat with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you next time.